What's up, guys? How are you? James here with JDC Auto. Today we have a 2016 Chevy Colorado work truck. Just the WT model, which stands for work truck, simple. We do have kind of a big issue here. We have a leaking transmission. So it's leaking from under here. I don't know if you can see, but you can see it's all over that cross member right here. Goes across. So started to slip, added some fluid, but today we're going to be pulling the transmission out, and I'm going to show you the steps of how to take out this 6L50, and we're going to figure out what's the problem. First thing we're going to do, make sure you chalk your wheels, put some wheel chocks under there. Also, we're going to set the e-brake, and we're going to get this truck front jacked up, and we're going to put on some jack stands and get her set up. Alright guys, we got her jacked up, set on 2 jack stands. She's solid, and maybe get you a little bit better angle so you can see the leak. So it's coming from just out of here. It's leaking out of the bottom viewpoint here. You can pop this little plate out, and gives you actually access to the inside there to kind of turn the motor, which we're going to do later to get out the torque converter bolts. But yeah, so good size leak coming out of here. We're going to get everything taken off here. We got a lot of stuff to start. So first thing I want to do, actually, we're going to take out this front cross member here, give us a little bit more working space. And I'm going to take off that front right wheel, as well as I'm going to take off the wheel well inside there, and I'll show you guys why. All right, get yourself a little flathead screwdriver. You're going to have a hubcap on here. On one side, you'll see there's a little slot. You're just going to need to get in there and just pop it out. And then we got ready to take off the lugs. All right, get you a 22 millimeter. 22 millimeter is the impact on these, and let's go ahead and get these all loose. Make sure you loosen them in a star pattern so you evenly get them out. This car originally is from the East Coast, so you can tell by the amount of rust on the wheels and the lug nuts here. So, and sorry about the camera angle, guys. I'm recording and doing it all myself here, so bear with me. So we're gonna get these lugs off, get this wheel off. We're gonna move that cross member underneath. All right, now for underneath here, you're going to need an 18 millimeter wrench and socket. It's going to be for these right up here, these 2 bolts there, as well as the 2 bolts over there. And I'll see if I can help you guys get a capture of this, because it's kind of hard to record and do this at the same time, but help you out best I can. So you guys can follow along. So we'll start with this, then we'll move on to the next step here, which I'll get to in just a moment. So get you a little 18. I want to get this on here. There we go. There's one. There's 2. Now we're going to get the other side. All right, we got the bolts out on both sides. I really recommend you to thread them back onto each other so you don't lose them, and set them to the side. Now, sometimes it'll come out easy. If it doesn't, you're going to get yourself a little soft smack hammer here. And so I'm not even showing you. Now, this is going to fall. I'm holding the camera. Let me see if I can get you a good view here. Hopefully you can see. Just give yourself a good couple smacks till it's out, and then... Now, the little U shape, the cutout, the bottom of the U goes towards the front. So like if it's the inside of it, and you obviously have the top here. So just if you need to see that for future reference. Slide that out of the way. To the front. All right, now that we get that bottom plate out, we got the wheel well here on the passenger side. I believe it's a T15, but I don't have a T15, but a T10 works as well. It's a Torx heads. There's a bunch of these little Torx heads all around here. So go around the whole wheel well. You may need a screwdriver to pop this out, and I think that's the only one that's a screwdriver. The rest are all Torx heads. So we're going to get all these Torx heads out, and we're going to get this wheel well out. And all that's going to do, I prefer it that way. You can do it however way you want. You might be able to reach up in here from the back of this frame and get to the starter, but I found this to give me a lot more space. So we're going to take this wheel well out, and it doesn't take too long. Alrighty, guys. I counted them. There's about 14 of the Torx heads, the T10s. And then we have one last one here we got to pop out. Just get yourself a little flathead here and get up underneath it. And you're just going to wiggle it until you're going to get it popped out here. Should come out. There we go. Top. There it goes. Got one little popper that goes in there. Whoops. And now with all those out, this should, trying to get you guys a good angle, this should be able just to wiggle out. You got to kind of push it back because there's a little lip up here. So kind of push it back. Get it out from underneath that lip. There we go. And eventually, you got this bottom left part over here. Get it out of there. And it's kind of like a hard carpet, so don't be afraid of hurting it. And there you go. Get that out of the way. And now what's nice is with that out, we have direct access here to the starter bolts. The starter bolts. I know it's kind of hard to see in here. See if I can get it stable. The starter's here. You got a couple bolts. We got some cables behind here. You can see the red one there at the end. That's for the starter power. I'll get better lighting in here, but just to kind of give you guys an example. So now we have access to the starter, as well as a couple other bolts. So it's easier to take that off. All right, before we take off the battery terminal, because that's going to be the next step, we need to put the car in neutral, because we need to lift up the rear end and get it handled here. So here you need to put the key in the ignition. Turn off. There we go. Okay, so put the key in ignition, switch it to the accessory on position. This car specifically requires the seatbelt to be plugged in for the shifter does. So foot on the brake and then shift it to neutral, and then you won't be able to take the key out because it's in neutral, so just kind of turn it as far back off as possible. Everything is good. And now before we go any further, as we start kind of get to some electrical connectors, what we're going to do is just go up here to the top, get to the battery. It's a 10 millimeter. Get yourself a little 10, and we're going to go ahead and disconnect the battery. Let's get your little 10 on there. Loosen it up, and we're going to disconnect the battery positive and set it to the side. So get it loose. Should just be able to wiggle it. And actually this whole piece comes up here. But there we go. All right, now got it off. Set it to the side. Make sure it's not touching. Now the battery's disconnected. All right, so we're going under the passenger side of the car here. Just kind of want to give you guys an example. So just to see what we got to get out, we have the whole transmission here. We do have to disconnect the drive shaft, which we're going to get to. There's 4 bolts in the back that connect to the rear diff right over there. So when you take out the drive shaft, we also need, because the exhaust is hooking right underneath it, we also need to take off the exhaust. This is the transmission mount support, so we're going to take that off later, not now. But for now, our goal is to kind of clear out some of these cables and wires. So we have the cooler lines. We have the actual part that connects to the computer, the car computer. We need to take this off. So an exhaust as well. I don't know if I said that already. So cooler lines, exhaust, and these electrical connections. And I believe we also have a couple O2 sensors to take off. For example, we have this up here because we need to also, again, remove this little exhaust portion right here. We're going to get this all out. So we're going to start working on that. The first thing I want to do, actually, I might start in the back. I'm going to take out the drive shaft, and we'll work on that. All right, going to get your jack under the rear diff, and get yourself 2 jack stands as well. You don't need the tires to be really high off the ground, just enough that they clear. I still have my wheel chocks just in case, so we're going to get that done there. As we come back around, let's go ahead and take a look. All right, and as we got under here, you have 2 here, as you can see. Little focus. You have 2. These are 11 millimeters. I just got myself a little quarter drive, a little extension, a wobbly, and then the 11 millimeter socket. And then you kind of might need to give them a little bit of a crank to get them loose. But once they're loose, they start coming out quite easy. So I'm going to get all 4 of these out, and then we're going to drop and pull out the drive shaft. All right, guys, we got all 4 of the 11 millimeters out. And sometimes this is, being as this is originally from somewhere cold, and there's a lot of snow, there's tons of rust on this, and it's kind of stuck. So get yourself a little clown hammer, dead stop, something gentle, and just kind of give it some taps here to loosen it up. And what should happen, there we go, boom. And it's got a little bit of play. You can push it a little bit inside the transmission that direction, and it'll give you just enough to drop it down here. And then now, as you can see here, let me let that set. I'll see if I get this set up so you guys can see it. Now, you may want to grab yourself a little pan. I'm sorry about the camera, guys. You might want to grab yourself a little pan, because what's about to happen is There you go. You should be able to see it right up top here. You're going to see this whole drive shaft pull out. When you pull it out, though, transmission fluid may come out. So what we're going to do is we're going to get ourselves a little pan, put it right underneath it real quick, and then we're going to go ahead and drop it. Alright, got me a clean pan. Sorry, I had to... Anyways, got the clean pan here. We're going to set it right below this. And we're going to go ahead and proceed to kind of pull back gently. It's going to come out. It should pull out right underneath the rear diff. You have a little bit of space there. Just like so. Now you got your drive shaft out. Let that leak in the pan a little bit. So you don't create a big mess on your garage floor. Then we're going to get this out and set it to the side. Alright guys, get yourself a little bit of brake clean. Spray that up right there. Clean it up so it's not dripping everywhere. It's going to drip a little bit, so just grab yourself a towel and a little brake clean and wipe it up as much as you can. Kind of don't want to have like a big mess everywhere. Now what we're going to do is I'm going to grab myself a can of penetrating oil. We need to take out this exhaust here from this point right here. These are 15 millimeters, so go ahead and spray yourself here some penetrating oil, WD-40, some type of oil on those two. While you're at it, go ahead and hit up the transmission mount cross member. Hit up those 4 bolts with some. And then we're going to need to hit up here, as long as you move up towards the front. These 3 as well, right here. Hit them up with some penetrating oil, because we're going to be taking out the exhaust next, as well as we're going to be removing the O2 sensor here. And there is one up, I believe, a little higher up there, and I'll show you that one once I get the camera up there. So we're going to take off this plug right here. This is going to come out all together. You don't need to remove the O2 sensor. Keep it in there because it's so hard to get out sometimes. And yeah, so let's get to that. 15 millimeters, I believe, are all of these. So penetrating oil, and let's get 15 millimeters. All right, we got a little bit of lube on those bolts. We're going to start in the back here. It's a 15 millimeter. Just take your gun here and awesome. That one came out quite easy. Hopefully the other one will do the same. Oh, I need an extension. So I'm hitting this little holder. 1 second. Let me grab an extension. Got our extension. Let's hope this one comes out easy as well. Wow. That's very surprising. For exhausts are usually not that easy. Okay. Alright. Got those 2 bolts off. Or sorry, 2 nuts. Got those 2 off. We do have these little hangers here. Actually, we don't got to worry about this front. We don't got to worry about this one so much. We have these little hangers, but we got this one up here. I believe we don't got to actually unbolt it. You can try to unbolt it if you want. Up here, there's 2 bolts for that bracket. But I'm just going to try to slide it off this little nipple. Oh, God, my hand's in the way. Slide off the nipple here inside the bottom here. I'm just going to pull that out. And I believe I have another one up front there, but let me go hit those up front ones. Alright guys, before we're going to take off these 15 millimeters right here, we're going to go ahead and get off the O2 sensor plug. There's a little cover housing around it. I don't know if you can see it, this little piece of foam here to keep it from heat insulated. It looks like someone's been in here before. This thing is trashed. But there's no codes for an O2 sensor, so it's still working. But what it looks like, there's a little tab underneath here. I don't know what was here before, but I think there's actually like a switch you slide up here, and then underneath that switch you need to put a little screwdriver, because there's a little tab here. So what we're going to do is we're going to get a little screwdriver here, and you should be able to slide it up underneath and unlatch the tab there. So get a more close look at it so you can see it. So when you look at it, you see there's a little tab. Screwdriver goes this way, lifts that tab up, and it should disconnect. Alright guys, just so you can see, so underneath that there's this little tab that sticks up. It's a little T-tab that slides up and locks in to this piece. It looks like you should be able to lift it up by pressing this top half here, but it wasn't lifting very much, so I ended up just taking a flathead and popping it off. So anyways, that's off now. Now that's out of the way. We can go ahead and get our 15 millimeter nuts off here, which I believe I'm already ready to go here. Let's go ahead and get that. So I'll take a 15 millimeter, and we're going to get that off now. That one was a little bit on there more than the back one. Sorry about the camera angles, guys. I'm just trying to record in. These exhaust nuts are coming off pretty easy. I'm kind of suspicious. Usually they don't come off that easy. And you got one more here in the back. Which actually looks like I might need a wobbly to get in here. So anyways, I'm going to get a little wobbly, a little bit different extension. I'm going to get that last one off. Alrighty, we got the third nut off. And now what should happen is this should be able to just slide back here. Should slide back off, slide it down. It's got a little flex head here. Now we got to take off this right here. I put a little bit of grease on this, a little bit of lube, WD-40, just kind of help it come out. What I'm going to do is I'm going to pull this out. If I can do it on camera. It's kind of hard with one hand. But see if we can gonna get it to work out. If I can get it to work out. Ouch. Just like that. There we go. All right. Now we got that one off. Now we can do the same one for the one over here on that side. So we're going to pull out that other one, and then the exhaust should be free. All right, guys, this is the front view. As you can see, the exhaust is down. I got the other one out, and we're going to be actually moving the exhaust towards the front of the car because we got to get it over this little cross member, but it's all should finagle out just nicely. Just kind of slide it through, slide it on through, and eventually it'll get to a point where it's out, just like that. All right. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the 3 nuts I took off of this front cat up here, the 3 up here. I'm just going to put them right back on so we don't lose them. I'm going to do the same for the 2 nuts from the back that go on this end pipe here that connected to the rear muffler. And just kind of keep all your nuts and bolts organized nice and neat. Don't lose them. Keep them together. It's important to stay organized. Because if you don't, you'll end up wondering where a nut is or a bolt is, and that's just a pain in the butt. So screw those right back on there. There we go. Now we can move the exhaust out of the way. Now we got the exhaust out. We got the rear drive shaft off. Now we're going to start taking off some electrical connections and little things on the side here and get moving on to that step. Alright guys, so now what we got here, we got the electrical harness. We're going to go ahead and get this handled. So this little white piece up here on top, all you're going to do is you're going to pull it towards you. Should pop out like so. And then this little tab you're going to push up. Should go counterclockwise, like it unscrews to the left, like that. Pop, all the way out. And there's your harness for your transmission to the computer. And this looks like it broke off here. Well, that usually pops in there. You need to pop that out. And looks like we got another one up top here that we're going to take out too. So we'll get this unhooked, and we have this harness free from here. So get you some pliers, just kind of finagle this out. All right, guys. That cable for the transmission that was in this little slot right here, just tuck it up out of the way. I pushed it all the way up, and it's sitting over the frame here, just kind of dangling on this side. Get it out of the way. You don't need it in the way. The next piece I'm going to start working on is the transmission cooling lines. At this point as well, now that I've kind of got most of it done, we're going to go ahead and open up this drain plug as well. And just any extra fluid, I am going to try to save as much as I can because it is all good fluid still as far as I know. Looks clean and ready. And obviously we got some brand new AC Delco Dexon 6, I believe it is. I'm going to have to double check, but we're going to do this plug here. Let the transmission fluid come out. And then we also have to get these cooler lines off. Now, I kind of did one already up here in the front off camera. It was just a pain in the butt. But it sits in this hole up here. This little plug, just make sure you push it out. You don't have to undo it. Just kind of push it out and get it out of there. The next one after that is this one here. This is a bolt. So you can either undo the bolt here, which is actually one of the bell housing bolts. It's this one here. And then that whole piece will come out as one. And then after that, you have the actual connecting point of the cooler lines here. Let me get some light here. Right up here, there's a little bolt that connects those cooler lines right there. Looks like it's a 12 or 13, but I'll double check that. And then we should be able to get the cooler lines out of the way. So drain, cooler lines, connecting clip, and then we should be able to move this cooler line out of the way. All right, it was a 14 millimeter. Undid the plug. The plug does have a little gasket on it. There you go. Make sure you don't lose that. And oops. Oh god, dropped it in that weird spot in my arm. Anyways, so you got it here. 14 millimeter. Just, you know, check for anything abnormal. Doesn't seem to be anything abnormal. It's gonna let that drain, and while that's draining, we're gonna go and work on the next part. We might need another pan because this will probably leak as well. So just gonna keep it as clean as possible. All right, we're down to a point now where it's just dripping, lightly dripping consistently. I did remove the tranny cooler line bolt. There's only one. It is a 13 millimeter. It doesn't. I did remove that 13 millimeter bolt. Sorry, it's a different angle, guys. So the tranny cooler line's a 13 millimeter bolt. The 14 millimeter bolt that goes in there, this just got to a point where it was just dripping lightly. Put that back in there. And before we can take out that cooler line, the bolt's out, but it's not leaking. We need to come up here, and we need to actually loosen this this line, this hose right here. So what you can do is you can take yourself a little flathead, just get up in there, and then you can kind of pop it out like that. Opens up nice. What you're gonna do is, because we've already got the one that was out down this way, we got that one off. This is out of the, so that one right there is out of the bracket and free. This one's now out of the bracket and free. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna kind of try to pop it out a little bit here. If they'll pop out here. There we go. Let's kind of get them like just loosened out, because they're not going to come out until I pull the whole line. And then what we're going to do now is we're going to come up here to the tranny cooler lines, and we're going to give them a little wiggle and a pull back. Get your drain pan ready, and pull it back. You should be able to, yep, there you go, get it nice and locked out. And that should drop down. Keep your pan nearby, and catch all that liquid. So that's out. We're going to clean up a little bit of leaks and drips here just so we don't start a big mess. And this is out over here as well. And when we're going to pull this bell housing bolt, this whole piece will come off, and what I usually do is I'll kind of keep it nearby, lock it back in, just don't lose it, because this whole bracket goes right here. But now this is done. All we can do now is just kind of move this out of the way once it's done dripping here. Let it drip and get as much liquid out as possible, and then we're going to move it out of the way. All right, tranny cooler line's out of the way. I did use a little bungee tie to kind of keep it out of the way for us, so we don't got to worry about it. Now we're going to come back over to the driver's side again, and we're going to start to work on the shifting linkage here. What we need to do is we need to go ahead and pop this off. This just pops off. Get a little flathead, or if you have a little fork tool to stick in here and just kind of wiggle it, it'll pop right off. And then I really recommend, because it's a pain in the butt to get this out of this little bracket here, we're just going to pull these there's two bolts here. You have the one here, and you also have the one above it. They're 15 millimeters. And then as well as we have these lines that connect to it, we're going to kind of get these all out of the way. So two 15 millimeters, and we're going to pop this off. So it's going to be disconnected from the tranny. All right, guys, sorry about that. These are 13 millimeter bolts. They're 13s. And what I did was I took my little flathead, and I went up here and popped this, this tab just pops right out. Just kind of get it in there and kind of twist it and wedge it out. You can get a thicker blade if you need, and kind of, this will pop out and disconnect. And then after you get those two 13 millimeters out, and kind of hang this off to the side here. This is your shifter that goes up into the car, and that's what shifts the lever here that pulls it into park, neutral, drive, whatever. So that's good there. Now this is out of the way. You don't got to worry about this anymore. This does not attach on the top, so you're safe there. Now the only other thing now is we're going to go ahead and get our transmission jack, and we're going to start to get ready to pull a couple more things. But before that, all right, now that's all that out of the way, we're going to need to start to work now on this converter, catalytic converter. We're going to have to take it out. There's a bolt here that holds this bracket, as well as I don't think we need to take out the bottom one here, but just this one here we can take out. And then we got to go up top and undo a couple bolts up there. And I know that this is kind of hard sometimes to finagle out because of how the exhaust manifold sits, so we may need to loosen and take out some exhaust manifold bolts to kind of loosen and wiggle it out. But let's get up there and see. All right, guys, we're at the front of the truck here. We're looking down in the engine bay. We need to remove this heat shield here. There's 3 10mm bolts. There's one back here. There's one down in here, right there. And there's one kind of rusty one right there, that red one. So we're gonna get those 3 bolts out and get this heat shield out of the way. All right, guys, heat shield is off. Those 3 10mm. You gotta kind of finagle a little bit, but it does come kind of straight up, so you should be good. We have another O2 sensor here that we need to disconnect, and this is actually how it should look. And so I've already pushed out that tab, so there's a little tab here. I don't know if you can see it. A little tab, white tab, so that's pushed in, and you kind of push it out, should slide out. And like I said, when I push on that, it doesn't seem like there's able to fully get it. So I'm gonna get my little flathead. I'm gonna stick it in that little crevice there, straight down in there, flat, and then kind of pop it up, and they should separate. Alrighty, guys, so we have out the, I took off camera. These are 15mm nuts. There's 3 of them. One, if you actually look up in here, 2 right down there in between, and then 3, of course, right underneath it. You'll see it's right underneath the drill. Now, down further, you're gonna see this little bracket that holds on the muffler. It's a 13mm, so let's go ahead and zap that off. And then I'm gonna get the one that's down below, and we should be able to take it out. If not, we may need to loosen this manifold bolts here and take out the manifold, but we'll see if we can wiggle it out. All right, guys, so got the 13 out in the bottom here that was holding the muffler on. But as I suspected, if you can see up in there, right here at the tip of my finger up there is where that kind of pops out. But there's not enough clearance for this to sit down and go by. I may be able to jack up the motor, and that might give me enough room to slide this out. But what I'm going to do is I'm actually just going to go ahead and take off the exhaust manifold. It's just a couple bolts right here on the side. You got the one here, the tip of my finger, one over there, one down below. So we're going to get all those out, and I should be able to take that out, and that should give me enough room to get it out. So we're going to zip those out. I believe those are 14s or 13s. 13mm. Alrighty, guys. Exhaust manifold is out. It was 13mm bolts. When you do take it out, be aware you do have a metal gasket. I just kind of took it and laid it flat out, so I know exactly how it goes back in, as well as this direction. Now, as you can see, this is loose, the catalytic converter, and it's just kind of sitting there for right now. But what we're gonna do is go down under here now, and what we should be able to do is kind of lift it and wiggle it out like so. Oh crap, that sensor's hung up. Hold on. Okay. Sorry about that, guys. Apologize. Anyways, that sensor was hung up there. And now should be able to just kind of drop this whole cat down right there. There we go. Cat's down. This bolt I'm going to put back in here. Ain't going to affect nothing. Go put that bolt back. That's for the bracket. That bracket. So now we have access to all of the bell housing bolts here. So that's going to give us full-on access here. As well as we can see the ones up top now. You have the one that's actually, sorry about the light. So where that bracket is right here, see it right above my pointer finger? That bracket was the one that was holding on the catalytic converter. There's a bolt right at the tip of my finger, right down there. If I get the camera to focus, I'm trying to block the light so you guys can see it. Anyways, there's a bolt right there. Do you see it? Right at the tip of my finger. That's a bell housing bolt, and you can't access it without getting the cat out. So anyways, exhaust is off. Now we can start to access all the bolts. I'm going to go ahead and work on the rear trans mount and get that lifted up, and then we can start to take out some other bolts here and get the tranny disconnected. All right, guys. So get yourself a nice tranny jack. I just have a little bit of just touching. It's not even pressing it right now. But you should definitely get yourself a tranny jack. These are not light. The transmission is usually on average about 400 pounds. This is an 800-pound jack. It's more than enough. You're not doing any big trucks, big diesel trannies or anything like that. So get you a nice one. You can get away with a jack plus like a flat piece of wood, normal jack, but I really don't recommend it. It's tough. So anyways, we're going to go ahead and get this transmission mount bolt out. There's one that goes from the top. It's actually in this hole right here. It's a 15 millimeter. And all we're going to do now is just going to take that, get you a little impact and a 15 millimeter. You're going to need a deep well socket, so make sure you get a deep well. Oh, I have too long of an extension. God damn it. Alrighty. Then you just get that right on there. And then once you get that out, you're going to see a little nut. That's all there is to it. And now, as you see, the transmission's now lifted up. Now we can actually start to work on this cross member here. So we're going to need to get these. I'm going to get these measurements for you here in a second. I believe they're the same as the front ones. I think they were at 19 or 18s. But now we're going to take out this transmission cross member. Transmission will be free from any type of... it's going to be basically weighing on the transmission jack, which it should be. And then we're going to start to take out some bell housing bolts and starter bolts as well. So actually... And then what we're going to end up doing is taking out after this, we're going to be able to get out the starter. And then once we take out the starter, we can take out the torque converter bolts on the inside. And then once we get the torque converter bolts out, then we can take out the bell housing and eventually drop down the whole transmission. So stay tuned. We're getting to it. All right, guys, these bolts are 18 millimeters. So get you a wrench and an impact with 18 millimeter for these two here. And those two over there for the transmission cross member. And let's get to zip zapping. There we got one. Okay. It's two. Sorry if you can't see much. I can't tell how the angle looks, but you get the point. Okay, and last one. I'm gonna move my flashlight because probably once this is loose, there's nothing holding this on. It's going to tilt down just like that. Hopefully you guys can see that. Let me get out of the way. So you see the whole piece tilted down here. And we're going to take out that last bolt here. There we go. And it's all out. So now your transmission cross members out of the way. In the side that goes forward, there's a hole here where that top transmission mount sits, and the hole faces towards the front. Just slide this out of the way. And there we go. And all I'm going to do now, so I don't lose this nut, is put this right back on here. There we go. All right, now on to the starter. All right, guys, next thing we're going to work on is we are going to get out this starter. And so when we get the starter out, we'll be able to access the torque converter bolts. And then once the torque converter bolts are out, we can get out the bell housing bolts, and then we'll get the tranny out. So starter wise, first of all, we got the regular connections here, and the battery's already disconnected. So all I gotta do with this, sorry it's not focusing, but you should be able to just push this red tab out, slide out like so, and then get a little good grip on it, give it a wiggle, and push it backwards. And there we go, should slide right out like so. And that's the positive that gets the battery, that sends the voltage to the starter to start it. And then you have back here, I believe it's a 12mm nut that sets right there. And hold on one second. For some reason, my light likes to go off here. So then we have another, for the main part right here, there's a little nut right here. I think it's 12mm. Let me double check that for you, but we're gonna get that off. The cable will come off, and then we have two bolts, one up top here, and then there's one down here, right here. Alrighty, guys. Sorry, it's kind of, see, I had to change lights, and it's one of those annoying lights. It's just too bright for the camera. So, we turn down a little bit lower. There, that's a little bit better. Anyways, so this right up here, that doesn't help much with the lighting. So, anyways, right up here, there's that little bolt that's sticking out there that has the 13mm nut I was showing you from the side. You can just get a little wrench. I have a ratchet wrench. Just get up a wrench in there and start to loosen it. Once you get loose enough, it kind of just spins off. And then once you have it kind of off of there, this whole cable just kind of slides right off. Man, I hate this lighting. I'm sorry, guys. I'm going to get my better lighting back here in a second. They're charging. So anyways, that cable was going to slide off like so. That's just the battery cable. See, that cable's off now. Was on that little terminal. And then while you're down here, this is the bottom starter bolt right there with the light on it almost, right there. It's also 13mm, so we're going to go ahead and get that off, and then we're going to get the upper one off as well, and we're going to go through the wheel well for the top one. So let's get those two off, then we're going to be able to get the starter out. Now that the electro connector's off and this little wire and nut is off, we can take it out. Again, guys, sorry about the lighting. So anyways, we got the last bolt out. I got the top one out. Please focus. Now we're going to finish pulling this last 13mm bolt here. There we go. Now that's out. Go ahead and set it down here. All right, with the last bolt out, we were able to get it out. The starter's out. And we're going to go ahead and set it out of the way. So starter's out. And that gives us access to a hole here. Right up in here, and that's where we can start to take out the torque converter bolts, which I believe are 17mm, but I will double check that for you as well when we... Alright guys, had to pull a little audible here because I wasn't able to get access with the transmission jack in here. So I took a normal jack, block of wood, and it's sitting on that transmount bolt, just kind of holding it there, balanced in the center. It's good to go, it's holding strong. Now I can go ahead and get up in here because we need to turn this motor over to get these bolts here. So here's actually the back of one of the torque converter bolts. You can see it right there. I'm actually just a little bit off. So what you do is you can feel up in the starter, where the starter was, where the bolt is, and I can feel a bolt. The bolt though is up too high. I can't quite reach to it, so I need to actually rotate this to the left, this direction. So I'm going to get a screwdriver, and I'll show you. Yeah, sorry, it's kind of weird. But, alright, so what we're going to do is we're going to get a screwdriver here, and you have the teeth of this here. And what we're going to do is we're going to push just a little bit. There we go. Now, it's not always going to be easy because you're going to sometimes be fighting compression during the compression stroke. So you have to kind of push a little bit hard. But I'm going to go back up and check now. And I'm filling up in that starter hole. I can't really show you. But that bolt is, yeah, that bolt is accessible now. Alright guys, so up in the starter hole here, I took my big 1/2" ratchet with an 18mm short socket on there. You got to feel for it. It's kind of a lot of a feeling here. And what you do is you get it on there and then you break it loose. And then what I do is I get it as loose as I can without it going off because I don't want to drop that bolt inside of the bell housing. And I get it so that I can finger loosen it. And then I finger loosen it until I can take it out here. Like so. Boom. and there's one of the torque converter bolts, 18 millimeters. So now we got one. Now what's nice is, set that to the side. Now you can kind of remember where it's at. So whenever you see this little silver ring here, this is a torque converter bolt. Every time one of those is here, one of the torque converter bolts is in the open spot. So you don't have to always guess. So kind of remember where it is. Like it's almost, if you're looking flush with it, it's just a little bit to the left of this ridge right here, and then it's straight up. Actually, a little bit more to the left of that. So it's right about here, about a good center of this little plate right here is where you should have that little ring, and then you should be able to access the bolt. So I'm gonna spin this around with the screwdriver, and then I'm gonna get the other. There's only 3. I'm gonna get the other 2 out, and then after that we can start getting ready bell housing bolts. Then we can get this transmission out. Do a video to show you the process here. I just thought maybe one of you guys might need to see what's going on. Hopefully you can see that. You can be like right about there. There. Okay. So you may not be able to fully see it, but I'm going to do my best so you know what I'm doing. I got out the second one already, and I'm pushing clockwise. Well, if I'm looking at it like clockwise, all you do is get your screwdriver and you give it a, oops, you give it a push. Now it's easier because I'm past the compression stroke, but I'm going to quickly reach another one. There we go. I actually went too far because it's not where I should be. A little bit back down. Okay, right about there. That looks about right. I'm looking centered. And now we take our 18 millimeter. I can see it in here where that little silver ring is I showed you earlier. It's in the right spot. Now, I should be able to go right up in here. Line up right on it like so. Break it loose. There we go. Now that feels pretty loose, so I'm gonna finish it with my fingers here. Oh wow, nope, there's still a little bit. There's actually a lot left to go. I got a little too excited. Loosen it up a little bit more. There we go, that's loose right there. Now it's finger loosenable the rest of the way. Boom. And just pull that last bolt. There's only 3 of them. They got a little bit of thread locker on them, so they're a little bit hard at first, but they'll come right out. Save those to the side. Do not lose those. They are a specific size of bolt. So now the torque converter is free from the flywheel. Now all we got left to do now is to start pulling bell housing bolts. And then I'm going to start pulling those bell housing bolts. I'm going to do a double check real quick to make sure I didn't miss anything here. And then once I start pulling those bell housing bolts, we should be able to just pull the transmission right out. Oh, we got another bolt up here. So we're going to get that out. Looks like a little 13. Let me show you. So on the passenger side, there's a little bolt right there. Looks like a 13 millimeter. It's holding on this line that goes over the top. And that is connected to the transmission. So we'll need to undo that bolt. And then once that's off, we'll have nothing else connected to it. We should be in the clear. So then we can start taking out some of these bell housing bolts. All right, guys. All of the bell housing bolts are 15 millimeter. I did take off this bottom one right here. As you can see, the little spot there. That bottom one is the one that was holding the bracket for the trainee cooler lines. Sits just like that. That's up in there. And then we had the one up here right by the starter bolts right here. Took that one out. So those 2 are out. And then we have on this side, I don't know if you guys noticed, I did switch back over to the tranny jack because we are taking out the bell housing bolts. We have the ones that are right here. Let's see what you can see. So we have one that was right here, and I had one that was up right here. So I took out those 2. So the 2 here on the bottom and the 2 on the bottom on the other side are both out. And I'm going to work my way up on the driver's side. The next bell housing bolt is actually going to get from the engine bay. And I'm sorry about the camera angles. Yeah. So as we take a look from the top here, you'll see, actually, remember that bracket earlier? So that bracket that hold on the cat, that bolt right there is a bell housing bolt right there in the middle. If you can see in the middle of the screen, tip of my finger. That's one there. After taking out that bracket, which sat right there, you need to go down just a little bit more, and there's another bolt right there, 15 millimeter, that's a bell housing bolt. We need to take that out as well, so we're going to go ahead and take that out, and that goes with that bracket. Alright, we got the bracket out for the bell housing that was on the driver's side, just here on the top. The only ones left now are the ones that are on top of the transmission. So what we're going to do now, I want to take you over to the passenger side and look at a couple things here. Ooh, that light's bright. Okay. Take a look. So when you start to look at this side, you'll notice that on this, when you start getting to the bell housing bolts on this side, there's a lot of things covering them, and it's hard to see here. Do you see this right in front of my finger? There's a 10 millimeter bolt that holds on this little bracket that holds this wiring harness, so you need to take off this 10 millimeter bolt, slide off the whole bracket. Now if we look behind, it's really hard to see. It's actually very hard to see, especially if my light shuts off by itself. But there's the wiring harness has a little slide on. I don't know if you can see it. I'm going to try to zoom in. So if you look right there on that top housing, it's actually the same on the other side. There's a little black, it just slides on. You can actually pull it off. Just slide it off. You'll feel it. If you see it, you're doing the job. You'll see what I'm talking about. It's just a little black harness that slides over the bolt. There's nothing screwing it on. You just got to pull it off. The only thing you need to unbolt is this 10 millimeter. Take off this bracket, and then you'll be able to get this one, and that'll reveal both of those nuts, or those bolts for the bell housing bolts, and we'll be able to take those off. Now again, it's the same on the driver's side. You need to pull off a little harness, black harness that's holding it on, and then other than that, you should be good. So I'm going to go ahead and get those off. It's not easy to film it, so I'm going to do it off camera, but you guys get the concept. Alright guys, you're going to need a bunch of long extensions. Unfortunately, I don't have just like a couple really long ones. But I'm going to show you where we need to go. You're going to need those long extensions because now all that's left, we got all of the bottom ones off here. And I was able to reach up in here, and I was able to pop off those little clips I was telling you about that sit on the bolts up top here. And what you're going to do is you're going to get back here up behind the transmission, and then this is behind it. So the drive shaft is right in front of us here. It's hard to see in the video, but if you look up and you zoom in, we have full access to the bolts. One there on the left. We have two more on the right side here. And those upper bolts are our next destination. We're going to get all those upper bolts there. So I think those are the last ones there. And we're going to get it from the back side of the transmission. And we're going to zip all those out, and then we should be able to take the transmission out. Alright guys, so now that we got all of the bolts out, as you can see, it's now separating from here. We're going to go ahead and jack up the transmission. I'm going to give it a little bit more, I'm going to try to level it out. God damn it, my lights are... I think my light's just literally out of battery. Anyways, what we're going to try to do is we're going to get it level, and then we're going to slide it back. And as we slide it back, we're going to be able to drop it down and the transmission's out. See if I can get a good angle for you guys. Alright guys, so right here there was one part of the removing items from the transmission that I did forget. Luckily it wasn't a big deal, but still, to avoid any damage on yours, just make sure you do this now. There's a vacuum line on your side of the camera where you guys are looking from, aka the passenger side of the vehicle. And there's it's not a vacuum, sorry, it's a vent line. It's a vent line, it's a little hose, rubber hose. You just go up there, it's near the bell housing, and you just slide it off. It's a little nipple that sits near the bell housing area. What happened here is when I let it down, it put a bit of tension on that hose, and it actually just popped it out of the bracket that holds it. So it's not really a big deal, didn't do any damage, but still, make sure you guys get it removed on yours. There we go. It's a little breather hose. All right, guys. So at this point, I wasn't able to get the transmission out of the car, or out of underneath the car, while it was on the transmission jack. So what I ended up doing was pull the torque converter, which sits right there inside of that bell housing. You'll see it looks like a little spaceship flying saucer. I was able to take that out because it does add about 30, 40 pounds of weight. Took that out gently. There will be transmission fluid that's going to leak. It's okay. Just have some cleaners ready. Set that to the side. I was able to put it down back towards the rear end of the car, slide the transmission carefully down to the floor, and then slide it out. Then we're out of the car. But if you liked the video, thanks for watching. Feel free to like, share, subscribe, and leave a comment below. Have a great day.